Okay, so why God did not create the universe? There is a sound scientific explanation for the making of our world. No gods required, by Stephen Hawking and Leonard. So Hawking here is making a strong case, or at least seems to be making a strong case, until he turns to a theory that is completely conjecture. And so I'm going to read through this. I'm going to make some comments as we go through this. But this is where we're going to spend the rest of our semester with why is there something rather than nothing, and is there a first cause for the universe? So follow along with me. According to Viking, everyone knows who Stephen Hawking was, right? He was probably the most famous physicist of his day. He had ALS. He was like in his early 20s when he got ALS. Had to speak with a computer voice and was confined to a wheelchair. But a brilliant, brilliant man, but also died a couple years ago. So, according to Viking mythology, eclipses occur when two wolves, Skull and Hades, catch the sun or moon. At the onset of the eclipse, people would make lots of noise, hoping to scare the wolves away. After some time, people must have noticed that the eclipses ended regardless of whether they ran around banging on pots. Ignorance of nature's ways led people in ancient times to postulate many myths in an effort to make sense of their world. But eventually, people turned to philosophy, that is, to the use of reason, with a good dose of intuition, to decipher their universe. Today, we use reason, mathematics, and experimental tests, in other words, modern science. Albert Einstein said the most incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it is comprehensible. He meant that, unlike our homes on a bad day, the universe is not just a conglomeration of objects going its own way. Everything in the universe follows laws without exception. Is that random? Everything in the universe follows laws without exception. Does that sound random, or does it sound like design? Newton believed that our strangely habitable, I love that, strangely habitable solar system did not arise out of chaos by the mere laws of nature. Instead, he maintained that the order in the universe was created by God at first and conserved by him to this day in the same state and condition. The discovery recently of the extreme fine-tuning of so many laws of nature could lead some back to the idea that this grand design is the work of some grand designer. That is the cosmological argument, and or the teleological argument, the argument from design, that every design has a designer, and the universe has a complex design. Therefore, the universe had a design. So and he's going to spend a lot of his time here on the teleological argument, saying it sure looks like it's designed, but it wasn't. So, yet, the latest advances in cosmology explain why the laws of the universe seem tailor-made for humans without the need for a benevolent creator. Many improbable occurrences conspire to create Earth's human-friendly design. So I'm just going to give you a spoiler alert. There are a number, we will go through these in details, they're called anthropic constants. And if any of them were changed, so the amount of oxygen in our atmosphere, the gravitational pull between the Earth and the Moon, and all these other things, if any of them were changed just a little bit, there wouldn't be life on Earth. There wouldn't be in some cases there wouldn't be an Earth because it would spin out of its orbit. And so that's what he's talking here. That there's all these so think of, and this is Worked for Ashton and Jagger for sure. Think of a big concert of a big rock band, and there's that huge soundboard, and all of those little dials are set to a particular place for a purpose, right? And it isn't just that the universe, and Hawking admits this, that the universe appears to be so fine tuned to allow life on Earth. It's not just that, to allow human life on Earth. And Hawking would agree with that the universe appears to be fine tuned in these multiple areas so as to allow human life. But he says that there's no gods. Many probable occurrences conspire. Does conspiracy require intention? Do people accidentally conspire? Okay, here's our story, so we won't get in trouble. And you figure out your story. You're conspiring. That one phrase assumes design. Assumes intention. Many probable occurrences conspire to create Earth's human-friendly design, and they would indeed be puzzling if ours were the only solar system in the universe. But today we know of hundreds of other solar systems, and few doubt there exist countless more among the billions of stars in our galaxy. Planets of all sorts exist, and obviously, when the beings on a planet that supports life examine the world around them, they are bound to find that their environment satisfies the conditions they require to exist. Where's the proof of life on other? There are many solar systems. Many. We'll see some in the video. We'll start tomorrow. But do we have any proof of life elsewhere? No, there's no proof. But he's stating as fact, when other solar systems, when planets and other solar systems find themselves with, those lives, find their atmosphere to be conducive for their existence. But there's no proof. Okay, so I got to go back to that, the first phrase again. Many improbable occurrences conspire. Probability is what happens mathematically, and then what happens when and he says many improbable things. What happens when you pile in, you're better at math than I am, improbability on top of it, probability on top of it, improbability on top of it. What happens? At some point, you functionally get to not possible, right? Many improbable occurrences conspire. This isn't a Christian saying this. This is the leading physicist of the day saying that it had to take many improbable occurrences to conspire. Okay, so it is possible to turn that last statement into a scientific principle. The fact of our being restricts the characteristics of the kind of environment in which we find ourselves. For example, if we did not know the distance from the Earth to the Sun, that the fact that beings like us exist would allow us to put bounds on how small or great the Earth-Sun separation could be. We need liquid water to exist, and if the Earth were too close, it would all boil off. If it were too far, it would freeze. That principle is called the weak anthropic principle. We'll get into that as we go through the next chapters. The weak anthropic principle is not very controversial, but there is a stronger form that is regarded with disdain by some physicists. The strong anthropic principle suggests that the fact that we exist imposes constraints not just on our environment, but on the possible form and content of the laws of nature themselves. So we created the laws of nature, or our environment created the laws of nature, not the other way around. The idea arose because it is not only the peculiar characteristics of our solar system that seem oddly conducive to the development of human life, but also the characteristics of our entire universe and its laws. They appear to have a design that is both tailor-made to support us and, if we are to exist, leaves little room for alteration. That is much more difficult to explain. The tale of how the primordial universe of hydrogen, helium, and a bit of lithium evolved to a universe harboring at least one world with intelligent life like us is a tale of many chapters. The forces of nature had to be such that heavier elements, especially carbon, could be produced from the primordial elements and may be stable and remain stable for at least a billion of years. Those heavy elements were formed in the furnace we call stars. So the forces first had to allow stars and galaxies to form. Those in turn grew from the seeds of tiny inhomogeneities in the early universe. Even all that is not enough. The dynamics of the stars had to be such that some would eventually explode precisely in a way that would disperse the heavier elements through space. In addition, the laws of nature had to dictate that those remnants could recondense into a new generation of stars, these surrounded by planets incorporating the newly formed heavy elements. So Hawking knows that there are laws that are always true. But because there can't be a God, because he rules out the existence of God beforehand, they must be the product of random chance. That's the only other possibility. By examining the model universes we generate when the theories of physics are altered in certain ways, one can study the effect of changes to the physical law in a methodical manner. Such calculations show that a change of as little as 0.5% in the strength of the strong nuclear force or 4% in electric force would destroy either nearly all carbon or all oxygen in every star, and hence the possibility of life as we know it. Also, most of the fundamental constants appearing in our theories appear fine-tuned, in the sense that if they were altered by only modest amounts, the universe would be qualitatively different and in many cases unsuitable for the development of life. For example, if protons were 0.2% heavier, they would decay into neutrons, destabilizing atoms. If one assumes that a few 100 million years in stable orbit is necessary for planetary life to evolve, is science supposed to be based on assumptions? Science is to be based on proven fact through the scientific method. He's making an assumption here. That is because, according to the laws of gravity, it is only in 3 dimensions that stable elliptical orbits are possible. In any but 3 dimensions, even a small disturbance, such as that produced by the pull of other planets, would send a planet off its circular orbit and cause it to spiral either into or away from the sun. The emergence of the complex structures capable of supporting intelligent observers seems to be very fragile. The laws of nature form a system that is extremely fine-tuned. That's what can we make of these coincidences? Luck, in the precise form and nature of fundamental physical law, is a different kind of luck from luck we find in environmental factors. It raises the natural question of why it is that way. So more assumptions. So the universe came about through luck. Now we're trusting in luck. And there's no such thing as precise luck. There's no such thing as luck, actually. And so, yeah, there's no such thing as precise. Many people would like us to use these coincidences as evidence of the work of God. The idea that the universe was designed to accommodate mankind appears in theologies and mythologies dating from thousands of years ago. In Western culture, the Old Testament contains the idea of providential design, but the traditional Christian viewpoint was also greatly influenced by Aristotle, who believed in an intelligent natural world that functions according to some deliberate design. And all of that was before the science proved that there is a design. All of those things were before that. Now, here I want you to see that what he's about to say is theoretical. It's not scientifically proven. It's theory. And I want you to notice that he has just gone into great detail to explain everything else. And now he's just going to make a blanket statement. That is not the answer of modern science. A design is not the answer of modern science. As recent advances in cosmology suggest, the laws of gravity and quantum theory allow universes to appear spontaneously from nothing. Spontaneous creation requires a creator, so he's calling it creation. Spontaneous creation is the reason there is something rather than nothing. Why the universe exists, why we exist. It is not necessary to invoke God to light the blue touch paper and set the universe going. So he's showing that advances in cosmology show that universes can appear spontaneously from nothing, but has that ever been observed? It's never been observed. Our universe seems to be one of many, each with different laws. Where's the proof? There's no scientific proof for multiple universes. That multiverse idea is not a notion invented to account for the miracle of fine-tuning. It is the consequence predicted by many theories in modern cosmology. If it is true, it reduces the strong anthropic principle to the weak one, putting the fine-tunings of the physical law on the same footing as the environmental factors, for it means that our cosmic habitat, now the entire observable universe, is just one of many. Here's the thing, even if it is proven, and maybe someday it will be proven, it doesn't answer the problem. Because where did the first universe? It just pushes the question back. Where did the first universe? Each universe has many possible histories and many possible states. Only a very few would allow creatures like us to exist. Although we are puny and insignificant on the scale of the cosmos, this makes us, in a sense, lords of creation. Here's what I'm going to tell you as we walk through this. All the science points to design. He doesn't give any. He doesn't give any names. He doesn't give any experiments. He doesn't give any detail. Although he gives a great detail in the first part of these new theories, these new discoveries. He just says new discoveries show this. And I think he doesn't. For Stephen Hawking, it couldn't be God. And so he had to have some other answer. So what if there were multiple universes? Then there couldn't be a God. Multiple universes doesn't rule out God. You have to know how those universes came to be. You have to be able to observe. So this is where we begin with our study of why is there something rather than nothing. And I'm going to just start a little bit of a video. We'll finish it tomorrow.